Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into something huge, maybe the biggest financial step most people take, buying a home.
That's right.
And we've got sources here arguing pretty strongly, actually, that a lot of buyers, they're basically walking into this, well, legally exposed, unprepared.
Yeah, the whole process, it's just become so complex, hasn't it? You've got huge sums of money, tight deadlines, lots of emotion involved.
Definitely.
So our mission today really is to look at these sources and unpack why. Why is having your own dedicated representation so crucial? It's not just a nice to have.
Exactly. And the sources frame this whole thing with a really sharp analogy, one that gets right to the heart of the potential conflict of interest. It really makes you think about who's truly on your side.
It does. It forces you to question who you'd actually trust when the stakes are this high.
Right. Like, think about it this way. If you were in some big legal fight, would you ever use the lawyer who's paid to represent the other side?
Seems crazy, right?
Totally absurd. Yet the argument here is that countless homebuyers do something very similar. They interact directly with the listing agent. The agent whose legal contract binds them to the seller. Okay, so let's dig into that. Forget personalities for a second, friendly agent, whatever. What's the fundamental legal problem, the structure, that makes dealing directly with the seller's agent so risky for a buyer? Where does the law say that agents' loyalty actually lies?
It comes down to something called agency law. And these sources, they don't mince words. The listing agent has what's called a fiduciary duty.
Fiduciary duty.
And that duty, it's only to the seller, period. Their entire legal obligation, their job, is to look out for the seller's interest, protect the seller's money, and negotiate the absolute best deal possible for the seller.
But I imagine a lot of buyers, especially first-timers, they see the listing agent, showing the house, handling paperwork, maybe being helpful. They might just assume they're sort of neutral. They're
Right.
helping everyone.
That's a really common and dangerous assumption.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that the agent is necessarily like twirling their mustache trying to trick you,
Right.
but their job, by law, is to get the best outcome for their client, and their client is the seller. So the biggest issue for you, the buyer, is this. There is absolutely zero confidentiality owed to you.
Zero.
None. If you don't have your own agent, that listing agent is legally required to pass along any information you share if it could possibly help the seller get a better deal.
Okay.
That's the imbalance baked right into the system.
Okay, that clicks. So any little comment you make, maybe just trying to be friendly, could actually become leverage against you.
Exactly.
If I'm that buyer talking to the listing agent, what specific things am I likely to say, maybe without even thinking, that could end up costing me money?
Oh, it's quite a list.
Yeah.
The sources really highlight three key areas sellers and their agents look for. First, your motivation. How badly do you want this house? How quickly do you need to move?
Urgency. Like if you mention a job transfer or lease ending soon.
Precisely. Second, your financial capacity. Telling them your absolute maximum budget. That's gold for them. They now know exactly how high they can push the price or how little they need to concede on repairs.
Okay, that makes sense. Don't reveal your top dollar. What's the third?
Emotional attachment. This is a big one. Those seemingly harmless comments like, oh, I just love this kitchen, or we absolutely need a backyard like this for the dog.
That emotional leakage, as you called it before. You're basically handing them intel, free intel.
You really are. It tells the seller's side exactly how invested you are, how much you're willing to overlook, or how much more you might pay just because you found for the place.
So without your own agent acting as a buffer, you're putting your own natural excitement, maybe your inexperience, directly against a professional whose entire job is to gather that intel and use it for the seller's advantage.
That's the core problem. It's enthusiasm versus professional strategy. And the strategy is aimed squarely at maximizing the seller's profit, potentially at your expense.
All right, this leads perfectly into something really practical the sources warn about, a situation almost everyone encounters and thinks is totally fine. The open house.
Ah, yes, the open house.
What's the critical warning here? Because it seems pretty stark in the materials.
It really is. The advice is incredibly direct. Do not go to open houses alone or unrepresented. Simple as that.
Wow, okay. Not even just to browse.
Because the moment you walk in without your own advocate, your own realtor, you are, and the sources use this exact phrase, stepping into the seller's territory completely exposed.
Exposed. Because that listing agent hosting it, they're working for the seller.
Exactly. It's not just a friendly tour. For them, it's an information gathering mission. Everything we just talked about, confidentiality, motivation, finances, emotion, It's all potentially on display.
And people are usually excited at open houses, right? They're imagining their furniture in the rooms, talking at possibilities.
Yes, and that's when those little comments slip out. The sources specifically flag phrases that kill your negotiating power later. Things like,
Let me guess. This is my dream home.
that's number one. Or, we've been looking forever, this is perfect. Also things like, we need to move really quickly. Our apartment lease is up next month.
So you're basically telling them, I'm desperate and I love it, so don't worry about negotiating too hard.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
That agent hears that, notes it down mentally or even physically, relays it to the seller, and suddenly the seller knows they can probably hold firm on their price. They might not agree to pay for that leaky faucet repair you wanted. Why should they? You just told them you need the house and you love it anyway.
That's where having your own person, your buyer's advocate, becomes so critical, not just for the offer paperwork, but for managing these walk-through moments. Strategy almost.
Strategy and, frankly, emotional containment. That's a huge part of it. When you have your own professional advocate there, the sources mention Albert G. Garcia as an example of this, you have someone who knows the game. They manage the interaction. They can ask the probing questions for you without revealing your position. They ensure your budget, your timeline, your level of interest. All that crucial stuff stays confidential from the second you walk in. They're the shield between your excitement and the seller's potential advantage.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about the risks, the exposure. Let's flip it. Let's talk about the solution. The dedicated buyer's representative, what do they actually do for you? Our source highlights Albert G. Garcia at Realty One Group, Modern Edge, down in the Rio Grande Valley. Using that kind of dedicated advocacy as a model, what are the core services? What's the protection they offer?
Right. This is where you see the real value proposition. It's not just one thing. It's a whole package protection. The sources break it down into about 5 core areas. First, and this is sort of the umbrella benefit, they safeguard your interests, period.
Meaning?
Meaning they review everything, the contract, the deadlines, disclosures, making sure it's all structured to benefit you, the buyer, as much as possible, not just the seller. They're your legal and financial advocate in the paperwork.
Okay, that makes sense. Protecting you in the transaction itself. What about the house itself, the physical thing you're buying?
Good point. That leads to the second service. They investigate the property thoroughly. This isn't just, glancing at the paint during the showing.
Right. More than curb appeal.
Much more. It means advising you on what inspections are crucial: roof, foundation, plumbing, electrical, pests, whatever is relevant for that specific property and area. They help you understand the inspection reports, identify potential red flags in the seller's disclosures, really making sure you know exactly what you're buying before you're locked in. It's about minimizing those awful, expensive surprises later.
Okay, minimizing future headaches. That's huge. What about the part everyone thinks about the price? Negotiation.
Absolutely. That's the third core service.
Right.
They negotiate strategically and effectively. And this is key. It's not just about throwing out a lowball offer.
How does their approach differ from me just trying to haggle?
Well, a dedicated rep like Albert G. Garcia, who knows the Rio Grande Valley market inside out, uses real-time local market data, comps, days on market, neighborhood trends. They use facts to justify your offer and negotiate from a position of strength. And it's not just the purchase price.
What else?
They negotiate repairs based on inspections. They negotiate closing cost contributions from the seller. They negotiate the closing date, maybe a rent back if you need it. They negotiate contingencies like financing or appraisal contingencies that protect your ability to walk away if something goes wrong. They're fighting for every dollar and every advantage for you.
So saving money upfront and protecting you down the line, what about just the sheer overwhelm of it all? It's a complicated process.
That's service number 4. They guide you step by step. Buying a house involves so many moving parts, right? Loan officers, appraisers, inspectors, title companies, endless paperwork, strict deadlines.
Yeah, it's a lot to track.
A good buyer's rep acts like your project manager. They keep everything on track, explain what's happening, translate the jargon, and give you clear expert advice from the moment you start looking until you get the keys. They make it manageable.
Okay, that guidance sounds invaluable. And the last service. You mentioned it ties back to the dangers we discussed earlier.
Yes, the 5th service is absolutely crucial. They shield the buyer. They act as that essential buffer, protecting you from making impulsive, costly decisions driven by emotion, like paying way too much because you fell in love with the staging.
Been there.
We all have. And they also shield you from the seller's agent's sophisticated negotiation tactics. Remember, the listing agent is a professional negotiator working for the other side. Your agent levels the playing field. They turn that exposure we talked about into active protection.
So putting it all together, a dedicated buyer's representative isn't just finding houses. They're your personal advocate, your strategist, your project manager, and your shield, working only for you. Their mission is to protect your interests, save you money, and get you the best possible deal. It's really about restoring balance to a transaction that's naturally tilted towards the seller.
Absolutely. It's the difference between trying to navigate a minefield blindfolded
Yeah.
and having an expert guide who knows where every single hazard is buried, because their success is tied directly to getting you through safely and successfully.
Which brings us right back to that fundamental lesson from the sources. The listing agent might be friendly, might offer to help fill out forms, but their legal loyalty, that's set in stone. It belongs to the seller. So the choice for you, the buyer, really boils down to exposure or protection.
And let's hammer home that analogy one last time, because the sources clearly think it's powerful. You would never, ever hire your spouse's divorce lawyer to handle your side of the case.
Oh, wow.
So why would you let the seller's legally contracted agent help you buy their client's house? It's the same conflict of interest, just in a different context. Recognize that their job is structurally legally opposed to your best financial outcome.
So if this deep dive has made you think, okay, I need that kind of protection, our sources actually point to a specific professional offering exactly this level of dedicated service.
That's right. For buyers looking in the Brownsville, Texas area, the sources recommend securing that confidence and protection by working with Albert G. Garcia. He's highlighted as a skilled buyer's representative with Realty One Group, Modern Edge. He's the kind of advocate who brings that crucial expertise, that local Rio Grande Valley strategy, and the dedicated commitment that buyers really need today.
And if you're ready to get that kind of advocacy on your side for your next home purchase, you can reach out to Albert G. Garcia directly. You can call or text Albert today. The number is 956-536-1109.
Let me repeat that. Call or text Albert G. Garcia at 956-536-1109. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. We've established the seller side is professionally set up legally and strategically to gain an advantage in every conversation, every negotiation point. So the question to ask yourself is, how much could that built-in advantage cost you in money, in time, and future stress if you decide to go into that transaction unrepresented? Really think about that potential cost.
That's a powerful question. What's the real price of going it alone? Excellent point. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We'll catch you next time.